Capitol Hill at this hour and the showdown across this country over abortion. Tonight, efforts by Democrats in the Senate to begin the process of protecting Roe versus Wade with a federal law failing. Republicans blocking them, along with a Democratic senator. The Democrats knew they didn't have the numbers, but they wanted every senator on the record on this. Rachel Scott on the Hill tonight.
And happy Saturday and welcome to The Deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. It is Saturday, May 14th, 2022. We've been gone for a few weeks. There's been a lot going on. I just want to, one other personal note here. One of our early guests, D Blocker, who was a fitness instructor here in the Triangle area. She passed away from cancer. She was an early guest on the program. She would come on and talk about fitness. We're losing folks that have been an integral part of this program and integral part of the Triangle community, and it's not comfortable when we have to come and report that. But I do want to dedicate this program today to D Blocker because she meant a lot to the formation of this program. As you know, this program started because of COVID-19. We were not able to go into the studio at Foxy 107 and do connections. So we were looking for an outlet. Our early programs were about COVID-19 and about healthcare and trying to stay healthy and trying to stay positive. So we had people like Dr. Lechelle Wardell, who passed away a few weeks ago, and now D Blocker, who passed away last week, and her funeral was in Pittsburgh. So I want to send condolences to the family. But let's get started. Today, we got so much to talk about. You saw the intro coming in. We have decided to start by having guests, and our latest guest is Lechelle Wardell with Wake County Department of Health, but also have Val Atkinson here because we can't do the program without Val Atkinson. Val Atkinson, welcome back to The Deal, and Lechelle, welcome to The Deal for the first time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Lechelle, in the intro there, I talked about why this program started, right? We were looking for an outlet so people could talk about COVID. Obviously, we've expanded over time, and we talk about all kinds of subjects, and Val and I will do that. We'll talk to politics in the next segment. But I wanted you on because I saw an article that was published in the Harvard Public Health Review journal. About what Wake County, North Carolina was doing in terms of trying to get people vaccinated. First of all, tell me a little bit about that article you guys published in that Harvard Public Health Review.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Ed. When we wrote the article in the Harvard Public Health Journal, it was because we really early on saw huge disparities in our COVID-19 infections and deaths with our Hispanic and Black communities. What we saw early on was that 23% of the cases in Wake County were with Hispanic individuals, although 10% of our residents are Hispanic. And 31% of the deaths that we saw with our COVID-19 cases were in, Black African Americans. However, we only make up 21% of the population. And so we felt like it was really important to get out in the community and address these disparities that we were seeing as it relates to COVID-19. Now, of course, we know disparities weren't new. We've been seeing these same types of disparities in our communities with a variety of health issues. But again, we knew that one, Blacks and Hispanics were getting infected and dying faster, yet weren't getting vaccinated as quickly as our white populations were. There were many reasons for that. Some of it was lack of access. Some of it was distrust in the vaccine, distrust in the government, distrust in how quickly the vaccine was developed. So we felt like it was critical that we get out in the community, that we take vaccines to where our communities were located, and that we use trusted systems and institutions as a method to get those vaccines out. So we went through a process of doing mapping, using census tract data, using our vaccine data. We were able to see where, one, our highest infection rates were, as well as where our vaccination rates were. And we could see that there were about 10 zip codes and about 50 census tracts that had the highest infection rates and the lowest vaccination rates. So we wanted to intentionally go out and target and work within those census tracts and those zip codes. One of the zip codes that we saw had the highest COVID infection rates in the state was 27610. So we did a lot of partnering with our faith communities, churches in 27610, working with Wake Med and the Sister Circle to take vaccine out to where those communities were. We, again, partnered with over 30 churches in Southeast Raleigh and set up vaccine clinics. We, of course, we use the pastors, encourage the pastors to educate their communities about the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine. And what we saw is by targeting those efforts, working within trusted messengers, going through who people trusted, we saw those vaccination rates increase. So by doing that, we started to see a 5% higher vaccination rate by doing kind of all hands on deck, all boots on the ground, if you will. So we set up vaccine clinics. We sent out community health workers. We went door to door, knocking on doors, educating people in those communities. At one point, we even worked with Wake Med to go out and do door-to-door vaccine for those communities, particularly in Hispanic communities that were more afraid to come in to like the health department or another system. So we would take the vaccine out to them. So that, I'm really proud of that work, and it's work that will continue on. It's what we're continuing to do now.
Yeah, I want to remind the folks you're watching The Deal with Ed Clark and Val Atkinson, and we're talking with Lechelle Wardell with Wake County Health Department, talking about their success with getting folks vaccinated for COVID-19. Val, as you listen to Lechelle, one of the things that strikes me, we've talked about it incessantly here, is trying to encourage people to get vaccinated. You've been completely vaccinated, Val, so have I. When you listen to Lechelle, though, what do you think about in terms of what's ahead of us? One of the things that we do know is the numbers been creeping up again. So what question do you ask for Lechelle about how Wake County's gonna make this not be as bad as before? We hit that 1 million mark nationwide of people dying from COVID.
If your listeners, our listeners will recall, Ed, several shows ago, we talked about locating and identifying African Americans in particular right now, since some of the demographics have changed and switched over the last few years. And one in particular was churchgoers. And we are really down as a demographic in the percentage of our population that actually go to church, particularly on a regular basis. And so I'm wondering, and this is my first question to Lechelle, is have there been alternative groups or measures to go after some sources other than the church? I'm thinking of things like social gatherings. I want to think about schools, but there's so many red tape barriers there that you got to jump through to get access, and when you're talking about public institutions like schools. But what are the things that you guys have thought about to get the people who fall through the crack that don't attend church?
Great question. So we've got several other strategies where we do outreach in the community and to educate our Black and Brown communities around COVID itself. One, we have a COVID boot camp. And so that is a virtual boot camp that any person in the county or the state actually can dial in to attend. It is an educational, it's a training back to the basics. Some folks don't even know what a virus is. So we assume folks know what COVID is, but what we realized is people don't even understand how colds work. So we take it back to the very basics. What is COVID? What is a virus? What is a pandemic? And we provide that that training via Zoom twice a month. We also this month started working with our barbers and stylists. So we did a training with Cheryl's University of Barbering and Cosmetology to train the barbers and the stylists to be trusted messengers. We know that, one of another trusted institution and where people get a lot of their information is when they go and get their hair done or they get their hair cut. And so we want to train those stylists and those barbers who come in contact with so many people with accurate information so that they can answer questions and encourage folks to get vaccinated. So we have started doing that as well. We also host an Ask the Doc town hall series. So we bring together Black and Brown doctors who look like the communities we're trying to reach. And it's a question and answer session. So folks dial on into Facebook. It's a Facebook Live program. We broadcast it on YouTube. And folks in the community can ask any question that they want. And the doctors and providers answer those questions honestly and transparently. Again, what we know is, it may take several instances for folks hearing information before they actually take action. So we want to keep hitting them where they are. We also go out to grocery stores. We're out today at El Mandado grocery store with a vaccine van there. We go out to, we've been out to community centers. We've been out to the parks. And we'll set up vaccine stations there. And we don't just set up a vaccine truck, but we also send out community health workers who can not only answer people's questions that they may still have about the vaccine and about COVID, but they can also connect them with other resources such as food and housing and other needs that they may have.
Yeah, Lechelle, it sounds like you guys are doing an awful lot. I know around the country, in some places where I talk to some of my friends in places like Mississippi and Iowa, they barely wore masks at all during the whole pandemic, and all the things it seems like Wake County, North Carolina is doing, it seems like it's putting us far ahead. But I have a concern, though, like I said in the beginning, that the numbers are creeping up again. And because you guys have done so much, it probably won't have as big of an impact in Wake County, but it's still an impact. What are you guys planning for, after all these people start traveling again, for the summer and school's out, and then we hit the fall again? Are you guys ready for this next wave?
Well, what we're trying to do is, one, continue to educate as much as we can. We know that folks, although we are about 74% of our population, total population in Wake County is fully vaccinated. And I do want to clarify, when we say fully vaccinated, that means at least 2 doses of either Moderna or Pfizer or 1 dose of J&J. That's considered fully vaccinated. Now, however, you can get a booster 5 months after the completion of your series. And if you are over 50 or immunocompromised, 5 months after that, you can get a second booster. So whereas we are at about 74% of total population vaccinated, we're at about 45% of our population who's eligible to get boosted. So we're lagging way behind in our booster doses. The other thing that we know is, summer's here. Folks are tired. They're sick of hearing about COVID and the pandemic. So masks are coming off. Parties are happening. Big gatherings are happening. So without having any kind of mandates anymore, what we are doing is getting out there, educating and encouraging folks, trying to let folks know that, one, this pandemic is not over. We are still, right now we're in the green in terms of transmission, but we're really close to being in the yellow. Those numbers are going up really quickly. And so we are trying to get the message out that, one, the pandemic isn't over. Get boosted, continue to wear your masks, continue to practice your hand sanitation and social distance. Stay out of the big gatherings. And again, making access as much available as possible, as easy to get to as we possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on all those admonitions. I need for people to do what they can, because I do not want to go to more funerals and hear about folks passing away. Well, Lechelle Wardell with Wake County, North Carolina. This information is not only for people here where we are today in Wake County, but for everywhere around the country. Get vaccinated, stay vigilant. Any last words you got for us? Anything you want us to know? And in the break, when we're going to be going out, I'll put some information up about where they can find your article and that kind of stuff. But anything you want to tell people about how to contact you or get in touch with the Wake County Health Department?
Yes, you can contact us. You go to wakegov.com/COVID-19, and we've got lots of information up about where to get tested. And I do want to put in a plug for continuing to get tested. If you are been exposed, if you think you've been exposed, please get tested. And if you're not feeling well, stay home. That's the biggest thing that you can do. Stay home if you're not feeling well. So you can go to wakegov.com. If you don't want to do it for yourself to get vaccinated, think about our babies. They can't get vaccinated, and our babies are dying and are getting infected as well. So think about our most vulnerable populations. If not for you, do it for them.
Yeah, the great words there. Hey, everybody, stay right there. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Val and I are going to talk politics like we always do. And we're going to start talking about the Supreme Court again. I guess we're going to talk about it every week, Val. Now they're after Roe versus Wade. We're going to talk about Delaware State's lacrosse team being stopped by the police in Georgia. We're going to talk about the 1-6 committee issuing subpoenas and a whole bunch more. So stay right there. We'll be right back after this message.
Hello, my name is Lechelle Wardell, and I serve as the Community Outreach and Engagement Manager for COVID operations for Wake County, North Carolina. We are pleased to submit this article entitled Ensuring Equitable Vaccine Distribution for COVID-19 in Wake County. In this article, we discuss our work around community outreach and engagement and ensuring equity, not only in vaccine distribution, but also in testing strategies. We've done quite a bit of work, but we've got a long way to go. So thank you for allowing us to submit this article, and we hope it is useful.
Tonight, Democrats forcing a vote to safeguard abortion rights.
All of us will have to answer for this vote for the rest of our time in public office.
With the Supreme Court likely to overturn Roe versus Wade, Democrats say it's just the beginning.
They are coming after your birth control. They are coming after Plan B and IUDs. And right here in the Senate, they are talking about a federal abortion ban,
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell recently said it is possible Republicans could pass a federal abortion ban if they win back Congress. Today, he called the Democrats' bill radical.
This bill would take us to an even more extreme and darker place.
The bill would make abortion rights outlined in Roe versus Wade federal law. It would also override state laws banning abortion before 24 weeks and abolish state restrictions like mandatory ultrasounds and waiting periods. Those provisions convincing Democrats.
Segment of the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. That's Val Atkinson. In the first segment, you saw Lechelle Wardell with Wake County, North Carolina. And Val, very sobering conversation. Even though Wake County's done a lot, the obvious disparities in the numbers. I didn't realize, 30-some% of the deaths in Wake County were African American, and clearly African Americans only make up 21% of Wake County. There's a little over 1.1 million people in Wake County, where we are recording this from today, and throughout North Carolina, the numbers don't look good for Black folks, but around the country, and it's a very beatable disease with getting the vaccine, so I hope people take that to heart. Coming back in from the break, Val, we saw a clip about the vote in the Senate on Thursday night, not passing to try to codify the abortion right in some federal law. Because we know about the leak from the Supreme Court that foreshadows that Roe versus Wade is all but dead. So let me get your reaction to number one, Joe Manchin, your buddy, not going along with the Democrats, and it wouldn't have passed anyway because you needed 60 votes, but we didn't even get 50. We couldn't even get all the Democrats on board. What does this mean for a federal right to abortion, particularly if the Republicans can win in the midterm and Mitch McConnell becomes the leader of the Senate again?
Well, let's take Joe Manchin first. He's showing his true colors, Ed. Joe Manchin is a product and a ward of his donors. They are telling him what positions he needs to take. A lot of them have given a lot of dark money way up front. People in the coal industry where he's from in West Virginia, other people with large sums of money are coming in and buying his position on an array of topics and issues. So we have got to stop looking at Joe Manchin as a Democrat from West Virginia. In the broader sense of things, Joe Manchin is behaving just like one or the other Mitch McConnell sycophants. He's in their camp. They can count on him more than we can count on him. So let's not be surprised at his actions moving forward. We need to do something about Joe Manchin when it comes time for him representing the Democratic Party the next time he's up for election or re-election, I'm sorry. That's where the real deal is with Joe Manchin. We need to stop getting surprised at what he does. He's where he is because he wants to be there, and we've got to decide that maybe we need somebody else to represent the Democratic Party. Now, having said that, this was a ploy by Schumer to put everybody on record voting for or against abortion, as it were. This is a political trick to make sure we have a talking point, an issue as the campaigns ramp up, getting closer to November. And it's not a lot of people in the middle. I'm not so excited about this particular strategy, as you can tell, simply because the middle that Schumer and all the other Democratic strategists are going after is not as big as it used to be. And he's trying to affect those people who are in the middle and really can't decide, is going to be Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I just can't decide which way I want to go. Joe Manchin, Donald Trump, they're one and the same, I guess. And Schumer and those kind of guys think the country is full of those kind of people that just can't decide. So let me give them one more reason why they should be with us. It's something faulty about that type of reasoning because it is just dead wrong, 100%. Somebody's lying to you if they are telling you, I can't decide between Biden and Trump. It's difficult for me to decide. They're lying to you about that. And if you're trying to effect a strategy that gets them to come your way, you're wasting your time because at a minimum, you're running down the hole after red herring or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Val, I think what would be a better argument if we talked about what the real strategy of the Republicans are, which is to take away as many rights as possible and to put us in some draconian theocracy. To that point, I'm gonna steal a little bit of your thunder. Usually at the end of the show, I ask you what's coming up for the week, and you're going to tell me that we should listen to Connections tomorrow on Sunday. I got some audio of Irv Joyner, our legal analyst from Connections, talking about some of the things that could happen if the Republicans get their way. Let's listen to that, because I want you guys to tune in tomorrow on Sunday to listen to the whole discussion about what's going to happen. But let's preview it a little bit here. This is Irv Joyner from North Carolina Central University.
statute. Marriage is a privacy issue. Family life and who controls the family makes decisions for the family in a constitutional sense, and whether it's the individuals who are members of the family or the government or some governmental agency. As I mentioned before, the right of privacy in the home is clearly on the drawing board. Interracial marriages, all notions of privacy. So I can just go on and on as to the many areas of privacy that might be impacted by what the court might do in the future, starting out with this notion of abortion. But the control of your body is the highest level of privacy that you can have. And to have a bunch of men outlawing for women what they can and cannot do with respect to their body is the greatest invasion of privacy that we have had in this country
So Val, Irv scares the shit out of me every time we talk to him because he just tells it straight, and the whole theory that the Republicans are working off of is that they can keep their solid core of people by dealing with these social issues, gay marriage, abortion, limiting voting for colored people. Because I will tell you that is a right-wing religious position. Now, people get mad at me if they want to, but Negroes voting is problematic for white folks because it doesn't fit into their religious worldview. Believe me, trust and believe me. That's why they hate critical race theory, or what they call critical race theory. So Val, you hear Irv say that things like privacy in your own home are at stake with whatever decision they come out with on Roe versus Wade. And Alito's opinion leaked, and not complete, but I think Alito's not going to change a whole lot, portends some very disturbing things. Tell me Irv is wrong or tell me he's right.
Irv is absolutely right. And I'm sorry to say that, not that I disagree with him, but what he's saying is that things are going to get worse. And we don't know in what order. We talk about it's going to be contraceptives first, over-the-counter contraceptives, IUDs. Is it going to be some sort of issues at some point with same-sex marriages? And are they really going to jump the broom, as it were, and talk about interracial marriages? I'd like to see how Clarence Thomas is going to come down on that one. And he's going to need to get some help from Jenny, big time, on that one, talking about same-sex marriages. Interracial marriages. But this thing is really, really getting dangerous, as Irv has said. It's getting dangerous to the point that we don't have the right anymore by some to govern what is dearest to us, our own body, marrying who we love, associating with whom we feel like doing and associating with. And if the government's going to take over that, then we have a problem bragging and identifying ourselves as a democratic nation, requiring others to be democratic, and rewarding people that think like us and punishing people who don't, based on a false narrative of democracy. Because the way we're going right now, it's not democratic at all. Your last question, Ed, had to do with what Mitch McConnell is going to do if the Republicans take back the House and the Senate. He's going to, there's nothing hidden about his agenda. It's sitting right out front so everybody can see. They are about the business of minority rule. They know that Democrats and people who support Democrats are in the majority in this country. So they have to junk up the rules so that minorities can win every time, that the majority can outvote them in the House of Representatives. Majorities can outvote them as far as the Electoral College is concerned. Majorities can outvote them in the legislatures, but the conservative bent wins every time, regardless of how many people vote which way. And that's what they want, because that's the only way they feel they can protect their way of life, is to stay in office, is to stay in power. And if that means tricking up the rules and saying it's up when it's really down, and refusing to abide by protocol, stare decisis, as you talked about, means nothing to these people, Alito and the rest of them. All of that, the precedence means absolutely nothing to people like Mitch McConnell. So
Right.
They're going to do what they want to do. And the only card that we got left to play in the deck right now is mega voter turnout. And they're even trying to abate that in some way, but that's the biggest card we got.
Yeah, so you are on time as always, because here's the segue. We are in the middle of primary season, and so you got to choose candidates to run. Let's take a look at this clip and then we'll talk about it.
On the ballot this time around, people are watching the primaries for congressional races, and there also are primaries for state offices. Those include seats in the General Assembly, on the North Carolina Supreme Court, and on the State Court of Appeals. Finally, there are a lot of municipal races for things including school boards and boards of commissioners. And as you mentioned, early in-person voting has been taking place. It actually ends tomorrow. If you're voting absentee by mail, you have to return your ballot by Tuesday. And if you're waiting until primary day to vote, polls will be open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Now, if you are in line at 7:30 when polls close, you still will be able to vote. It's a lot of information.
So we're in North Carolina, Val. So our primary season is right now. We're choosing candidates. In the clip, it says that they're choosing, those seats for the House, as they always do every 2 years. And then there is a U.S. Senate seat up in North Carolina. There's municipal elections here and around the country. Primary elections are going on. I encourage you to participate every time, whether it's a primary, dog catcher race. I don't care what it is. You need to be voting. So Val, as we talk about interesting races and whether or not the Republicans can gain control of the House and Senate, let's deal with the House first. North Carolina picked up one House seat, and there's a whole new district. And the courts pushed back against the Republicans here in North Carolina and forced them to come up with some districts that are a little bit better, that may give us a 7-7 delegation in DC at the best, right? I'm not saying it's just written as though I wouldn't put money on it. But how do you see the House shaking out here in North Carolina? Is that 7-7 even realistic, or what are you thinking in terms of how that's going to shake out?
Well, let me just answer it blunt first and tell you why. 8-6 is my prediction. 8 Republican seats and 6 Democratic. We have 5 Democratic seats right now that I think should go in the win column for Democrats without too much of a fuss going on. They are districts 1, 2, 4, 6, and 12. Those 5 districts should go under the Democratic column without too much of a problem. District 13 is going to be the up for grabs district. I think District 14, which is out southwest in the Mecklenburg County area, Gaston County area, I think Democrats have a good chance of taking that seat because of the way it's drawn. That is the one that we have a chance. And even if we take that, we'd only have 6. I think the 13th district is drawn in such a way that we got Wake County, your county, Harnett County, Johnston County, my old birth county. The way that thing is drawn, if Republicans don't win that district, it means they weren't trying because it's set up for them. that would give them the 8th district. And we have our 6, have our 5 rather. And if we win the 14th district, that would give us 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good assessment of how it's likely to shake out. Now, on the Senate side, North Carolina happens to have a Senate seat that's up, and so does Georgia. And let me deal with Georgia real quick. Donald Trump has supported a crazy man in the one Herschel Walker, who's running as a Republican there. They have a very good senator already, Warnock, who has to run against this clown. What is the Trump effect? Because I heard last night and this morning that Mike Pence is actually in Georgia campaigning for the nemesis of Donald Trump, Kemp. Will that have a negative impact on Herschel Walker's chances if there are other Republicans actively campaigning against Trump-endorsed candidates in Georgia?
Well, it may, Ed. I think that's a good assessment, a good window to open here, because heretofore, people are actually afraid to go against Donald Trump, or it appears that that's the way it was. And to have the second ranking Republican in the last administration to come out boldly and say, I'm against the pick that Donald Trump has made for the position of governor for the state of Georgia. That's a bold statement. You have put yourself 180 degrees from Donald Trump, meaning that you may not get some of those old Tea Party supporters on your side anymore. But he took that risk and he said that. Now, whether or not that's going to allow other people to say, well, if Pence did it, maybe I can slide over and support the guy that my conscience really tells me to support. And I don't have to really be supporting Donald Trump all the time with every candidate. So yes, I think Pence's decision to go out and make a supportive statement for a candidate running against someone that's been endorsed by Donald Trump, I think that could be impactful as we go through toward November. If other people see, especially if we see that it was successful.
Yeah, the most definitely. Now, the other part of that question is, now we look at North Carolina, where we're sitting. There's a Senate seat open here, and there's a Trump endorsed candidate that'll run against more than likely African American women on the Democratic side, Judge Beasley, who's been on this program and has been on Connections, led the Supreme Court here in North Carolina. What is that race going to look like? I mean, what kind of dirt could they try to drag up on Judge Beasley that they were able to drag up on Cal Cunningham? They won't be able to find any, but I'm just saying they got to pull out all the stops to try to make her look bad. What happens here in North Carolina in that Senate race?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head when you asked the question, what kind of dirt could they drag out on Judge Beasley? Well, that is going to be their strategy, because they've run Bud to the right on everything. And they can't run that same race in a general election because they'll turn too many people off. And they don't have any agenda to talk about in terms of what I'm going to do for you, or this is how I'm going to make your life better. So they use the media to make the whole narrative about the problems with my opponent, the negative issues that we need to consider. Opposition researchers get rich off Republicans because that's where they put all of their money, dig up dirt and find things going on. So that's what you're going to hear in the general election, is how bad Beasley is. And then you're going to have your October surprise. Last time, the October surprise was Cunningham's infidelities. That was your October surprise. They may come up with something on Beasley as well that you don't have time to refute or really attack and go against. But I'm with you, Ed. I don't think they'll find anything worthwhile. The point is that they'll try, and it's going to be up to the media. How far away will the media, allow the GOP to take them from the main issues of that race? How much time will you give the GOP to talk nothing but about these crazy allegations that they've made about Beasley? They're going to try to make that the campaign issue, and it's going to be up to the media to bite off in it or not. And the problem is the GOP has figured out that the media wants to make money. And this kind of thing called drama, it sells. It means higher ratings, more advertising dollars. That's why they do it. And it's going to be a tough decision on the part of the media to say, making money off advertising dollars and giving the election to the Republicans is one thing, but I got to do my job and enlighten the people who are my listening audience, my constituents.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a real challenge for the media to turn down that money that the GOP is going to offer them to change the narrative about the race.
I am not looking forward to that. Well, Dan, Val, we need to take a break. I hear some music. So when we come back, we want to talk about the 1-6 committee. Benny Thompson sent out some invitations to some people to appear before the 1-6 committee. 5 Republicans have been subpoenaed to testify. We want to talk about Delaware State and their lacrosse team. They were traveling through Georgia and got stopped, and we want to talk about the implications of that and a whole lot more. So stay right there. We'll be right back after this message. Welcome back to our final segment of the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. That's Val Atkinson. In the first segment, we had Lechelle Wardell from Wake County, North Carolina Department of Health, talking about their efforts to still get people vaccinated and tested for COVID-19. It is not over, people. Do not think for a minute that this is over. People are still dying. People are getting sick. Everybody's running around as if nothing's happening. I'm the one dude in the store, Val, that has on a mask. I'm the one dude that has not gone back to the movies, hasn't gone to a large sporting event, none of that stuff. I just don't feel comfortable, and I don't think enough people taking it seriously. In the second segment there, we talked about Roe versus Wade, Val. And, we always like to try to give a history lesson here. And one of the things in one of the clips we saw, Irv Joyner was talking about, losing some rights. One of the things in my latest piece on the deal with edclark.com is about the Ninth Amendment, Val. You're a history teacher. And one of the things that I write in my piece is that Americans are stupid. Now, I don't think they're stupid genetically. I think they're stupid by design, in that parties, particularly the Republican Party, has figured out a way to convince people that their only interest is in certain amendments, like the second, right? And so they make that sacrosanct. But the Ninth Amendment, which talks about unenumerated rights, is where you get the right to have an abortion, is where you get the right to marry a white person or a black person or a green person or a purple person, or to buy contraceptives, or to marry a same-sex person, or go down the list. Because, Val, I make the point in my piece that in 1789, nobody in Maine could imagine going to Georgia. It was just a vast difference, right? It was another country altogether for the most part, right? Because these states were states. They were independent places that came together. In the Constitution, there is nothing in it that says I can move freely from Maine to Florida. A state maybe could impose a passport to get into the state of Florida. It says I'm going to Disneyland, right? If it follows from the thinking that the Republicans are saying, which is I could take away all these unenumerated rights because they're not written down. The argument they make, Val, is that, well, abortion isn't in the Constitution, which is a dumb argument, right? Just like the argument of you can't travel to Disneyland because I got to travel from Maine and go through Georgia, and Georgia don't want nobody from Maine coming through there. Talk to me real quick, because you're the history professor here. Talk to me real quick about how we have successfully been able to keep people from thinking about these other amendments, and we only think about the Second Amendment and sometimes the First. What is that about?
Well, constitutional scholars and other people like that, people running for office, one of the things that they're keen on and very skilled at is the Constitution itself and the amendments and what they do. And more importantly, which one of them can be used to further your argument, to further your goal and your aim. And it appears that they have a segment of their constituency that is really concerned about protecting themselves when the National Guard, the militia, as it were, the State Highway Patrol, the local police department, and the United States Army is not there to protect them from these marauding hordes coming down from the inner city to take away their way of life and their property. So the Second Amendment is very important. So they're always pushing that, okay? Gotta have your guns, you gotta have your guns. There's no question about that. The rest of those amendments, people use them in any way they want for whatever purposes. And you can see people getting on other side. When I used to teach this course about amendments in school, I used to focus on the 18th and the 21st all the time. And that tells us two things, that people can change their minds. The 18th Amendment said, we ain't gonna do nothing with alcohol. You know, temperance, let's stop drinking. We won't have it. So what did the 21st Amendment come? It comes and it changes that. There's a 180 on it. And now you can go out and get drunk, Ed, and you can be okay, as long as you're in your own apartment, okay? House or whatever. But it's pliable. That's what it shows, that the Constitution, all this intent and everything else is pliable. It can be used in certain ways that people didn't think it could. And then you got 9 people right now that can make a decision that whatever you want to do is illegal or it is legal or whatever. For an example, they had Plessy, the decision on Plessy that basically said that separate was legal and equal. Then they come back in 1954 with the Brown decision and have a unanimous decision that said separate but equal is unconstitutional. 180 degrees again, okay? So people are finding out that this thing called the Constitution is so pliable and there ain't nothing you can't do under it. So let's go and try to push our agenda forward, and hopefully we can put a president in office and elect the Senate that get the right people on the Supreme Court, that when this thing comes before them, they'll see it our way.
Yeah. I'm just all the time mystified how we're like flag wavers, chest thumpers. We claim the Pledge of Allegiance has something to do with, the founding of the country. We just so misinformed about everything history related that it gets us into trouble. And one way we get into trouble, Val, is a clip I want you to see about a bus of lacrosse players driving through Georgia. So let's look at that, and then we'll talk about it.
Police in Liberty County, Georgia are telling their side of the story tonight in a controversial traffic stop involving the Delaware State University lacrosse team. Video from last month's stop shows a Liberty County sheriff warning the players that they were going to search their luggage for drugs. The university called the incident racial profiling.
I'm Tony Allen, president of Delaware State University. Today, I want to talk about the Liberty County, Georgia Sheriff's Department stop and search of a charter bus carrying our women's lacrosse team traveling home on I-95 through Georgia. Today, I am announcing the university's intention to file a formal complaint with the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice. The basis of this complaint will be police misconduct related to the April 20th incident in which Liberty County Sheriff's Department officers conducted a constitutionally dubious stop and search of a charter bus transporting the university's women's lacrosse team.
This is the same protocol that is expected to be used no matter the race, gender, age, or destination of the passenger. No personal items on the bus or person were searched. I welcome feedback from our community on ways that our law enforcement practices can be improved.
So, Val, let's talk about rights. A busload of young women with Delaware State. I did not know they had a lacrosse team. They do. They were coming back from a game at Stetson University in Florida, and they were traveling to Liberty County, Georgia. And you see in the clips there that the police start going through their stuff. The initial guise, Val, was that the bus had at one point traveled in the wrong lane. Now, as far as I know, none of those girls were taking turns driving the bus. So that should have been a citation against the bus driver for driving in the wrong lane. But let's get back to this whole thing about rights and people understanding what their rights are, and even these police not seeming to understand what people's rights are. We talk about policing a lot on here. The anniversary of the murder of George Floyd is coming up in a few days, Val. And it makes me think about how, some statues have come down, Chauvin's in jail, some other police have been convicted of crimes around the country, whatever. And then you see this fuckery right here where these cops get on the bus. And here's the kicker, Val. The sheriff of Liberty County is a black man. So help me here, because I got a lot of questions. We don't have a lot of time. You pick the one you want to address. What's the craziest part of this whole thing to you?
Well, Ed, I'm wondering if we'll ever reach 300. And when I'm talking about 300, I'm talking about the country being 300 years old. 2076 will be our 300th anniversary. That's about 54 years from now, okay? I don't know if we'll make it, because you have people like those police officers on the bus for the Delaware State lacrosse team that's taking advantage of little pieces of the Constitution. They've probably argued this stuff at the police station for years. Can I, if I want to, go on a moving bus and do this, that, and the other? So they thought they were right. They didn't care. They were hoping that they could find some drugs. You got all the elements there. You got a bus full of black people. What are the odds that somebody on that bus has drugs? And if you can find just one that has drugs, then the Fourth Amendment is a no-go. You don't have to worry about that anymore because you found the drugs. So let's search and let's do everything that we can. It is so bad. It has gotten so much out of hand, Ed, that now they can go and have a black mouthpiece supposedly playing the role of your sheriff there. I don't know how he got elected to office, but he should be very embarrassed about his performance, getting up there on stage, protecting white law enforcement officers taking away Fourth Amendment rights from Black people, and he's got to get up and defend them. And that's the sad part about it is there's so many people of color in law enforcement that are caught in this trap now. I don't know how close this guy is to retirement or whatever, but I wish some of our Black law enforcement officials didn't have to be trapped as they are, finding themselves having to support white people taking the rights of Black people under the protection and under the color of law.
Yeah, you know, one thing I will suggest to the sheriff in Liberty County is he hire a PIO. I used to be one for Department of Homeland Security. If he wants to hire me, I will be his PIO and get up there and tell the truth instead of the nonsense. One last legal issue as we wrap up here today, Val, is Benny Thompson issued some invitations to some people. Let's look at Congressman Adam Schiff, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We issued 5 subpoenas today to 5 different members of Congress who plainly have relevant information pertaining to our investigation. These are people who were involved in discussions with the president. They were in communication with White House staff on January 6th, leading up to it. Some were involved in the effort to overturn the election. Some spoke at the rally before the attack. One has said publicly that the president called him to rescind the election. They clearly have relevant testimony. They need to do their duty. They need to uphold their oath and come in voluntarily and testify. If they don't, we will discuss what the appropriate remedy is. But
so that's Adam Schiff. He's on the 1-6 committee. He was on the on the impeachment team for the House when they impeached the orange guy 2 times. I call him the orange maniac twice. Adam Schiff says that the subpoena of people like Jim Jordan should yield useful information because they were talking to Donald Trump multiple times throughout 1-6 and before and after. Let's talk some realism here. Benny Thompson's in a hard position here. Obviously, there's ample information. We saw the shit on TV. People were beating up cops. People died. They were chanting, "Kill Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence." They ransacked Nancy Pelosi's office. This is not a mystery to anybody. People are going to jail, not like I'd like to see. But here's the question. These subpoenas have been issued. I want, people like, Mark Meadows and them to be held accountable, especially the guy who refuses to wear a jacket, Jim Jordan. But how does Benny Thompson get them to sit down in front of the committee? That's what I don't understand. How's that going to happen?
Well, the whole thing is misdirected, Ed, in the first place. What is the purpose of this 1-6 committee? If it was to get information over to Merrick Garland and ask Joe Biden to put pressure on Merrick Garland or fire his ass and put somebody else in there that could bring charges against these guys, it would be a different thing. That's the way it's supposed to work. But you got Democrats that are using this for political reasons. They want to get this out to the public so more people can say, these are some bad Republicans. I'm not going to vote for them this time. I'm going to go, and the more it seems like that is the purpose of what we're doing here, the less advantageous it is. Because you keep asking yourself, why are you getting this information out to the public? The public's not going to vote on whether these guys go to jail or not. What are you doing? Why is it so important to get it to, you're trying to affect public opinion so you can affect public vote. And now people are exposing you. You're not about justice. If you were about justice and accountability, you'd be putting pressure on Joe Biden to put pressure on Merrick Garland. Let's get these guys prosecuted.
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
So you're telling me that we spent the whole year and we knew the answer to the question and nothing's gonna happen.
Nothing's going to happen because you got the wrong idea. You think this is another Watergate, that you can bring enough pressure throughout, the public and everything, that these same people in the Republican Party will stand up and say, hey, Mr. President, you need to resign, or we don't have a president that can resign now. So you guys need to go and admit guilt and go lock yourself up in the jail and throw the key back out under the door.
Well, I have a feeling that that's not going to happen, Val. So we may be at a point, and I like Benny Thompson. I've worked with him in the past and gotten some stuff done, but I'm just worried about nothing coming of this. You know what, Val? There's just so much that we can talk about. One thing that we haven't talked about, and I've done it on purpose over the last month or so, is not talked about Ukraine. I might have something to say about it next week, and I'm still thinking about it because I got to frame exactly what I want to say so it comes out right. As we get ready to wrap up here, Val, I do want to again encourage people to go to the dealwithedclark.com. Look at my newest piece. It has some history in there about the 9th Amendment. You need to understand what's at stake here. Like I said, I stole some of Val's thunder and talked about making sure you listen to Connections on Sunday with Val Atkinson and yours truly, along with Irv Joyner, where you can hear the full conversation with Irv Joyner about the dangers of losing your rights. I need to make sure people do that. Again, I do want to send out condolences again to the Blocker family. Dee Blocker was an integral part of this program being started, and we lost her last week. She had a real hard battle with cancer. A lot of people in the Triangle had gotten healthier because of her. She encouraged people to eat right, exercise, all that. She did everything she could. My admonition to you is to make sure you get your health screenings. If you do for a colonoscopy, if you do for breast cancer screening, whatever, please, folks, do that. Lechelle Wardell at the beginning of the program talked about being vaccinated. If you're not fully vaccinated, and Val, I consider fully vaccinated for the elderly like us, is to have up to your second booster. Yes. Not just the 2 primary shots like Ms. Wardell was talking about. So all of that, man. And since I stole your thunder, you got to come up with something else. So what do we got to look forward to in the coming week, or what are you working on, Val?
Well, Tuesday is the big day, guys. Let's not forget to go out and exercise your right to vote, because it's about the business of sending the message to politicians that we are not only voting in this election, but you can count on us voting in elections to come. So you need to start doing things right now to satisfy us and keep us satisfied if you want to count on our vote in the future. So the way you do all of that, folks, is by go out and voting every time. This Tuesday is the day. And remember, take somebody with you.
Yeah, good words, Val. Well, you know what? Like I said, you squandered an hour. But we're glad you squandered it with us. We want you to squander another hour tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on Fox 107, 104, where you can hear Connections with Val Atkinson. In the meantime, I don't care what the weather's like. I don't care what else is going on. First thing I need for you to do is go do something good for somebody today, and I'll talk to you next Saturday. You've been watching The Deal. Thanks a lot. Bye.